Hi, I'm Bhutan Dor, and I'm excited to talk with you today about the upcoming Mercury Cazimi and the new moon in Cancer. So we are in Mercury retrograde right now. This is the fourth time I've tried to make this video. I had some technical difficulties, but in a way it's been good because I think each time I do it, it's getting better, and hopefully this will be the one. So I first want to recap on the full moon in Capricorn that happened on June 29th. On that day, I heard a story called Ra, Iset, and the Hidden Name. And I was really struck in hearing the story, like how much it described the polarity between Capricorn and Cancer. In the story, there's Ra, the Sun King, and he's got power, he's, got a title, and it's a very like Capricornian archetype in my opinion. And then there's Iset, and she is more feminine, and she represents mother and divine sovereignty, and she's also quite cunning, though, as you will see in the story. I'm going to share the story with you. And then after that, I would love to talk about the Mercury Cazimi and the Cancer new moon. So bear with me as I share this tale with you, because I think there's like a whole story going here from the full moon through the Mercury Cazimi to this new moon. And so this story was told in ancient Egypt. And at the time, the name Iset, that was the name of the goddess, it stands for the goddess of Isis. So that was just what she was referred to at the time. So when I say Iset, it means Isis. And so what it was is that Isis wanted to have power over Ra because she wanted her son Horus to take the throne. And at the time, and actually I guess this is still true, we don't know the actual names of the gods. So you would keep your name hidden, and it would really like represent your true essence. Because if someone knew your real name, then they would have power over you. Like if you were a god, if you were Ra and someone knew your real name, then they have more power than you. So Iset, she manages to procure Ra's saliva. The story goes that he's like getting quite old, and he's like sort of floating through the sky, and some of his saliva drops, and she takes it and she mixes it from dust from the ground, and she's able to make this like magical serpent. And because this magical being is infused with the essence of Ra with his saliva, it has the power to actually hurt him. So the serpent bites Ra, and he's really struggling. He's actually becomes vulnerable, and no one can seem to help him. And Iset goes to him. Iset actually tries many different ways to help him out, and finally it's manipulative, but she says, hey, if you tell me your real name, then I can actually heal you. And he tries to give her every other name but the real name. And then finally, and this is kind of my imagination, I don't know if this is true in the story, but he whispers to her, because probably doesn't want other people to hear his real name. And she heals him, and all is well after that, except that really she in a way is more powerful than him. And what's fascinating about this story, I learned this on it's called the Ancient Egyptian podcast, and it's so fascinating. The host of the podcast also was talking about how this story was used to heal actual people who had been bitten by a scorpion or a snake. Like a physician would recount the story as a way to inspire the person who was injured to get better. And there were other things that the physician, and he could also be called a magician, would do to help the injured. And this is kind of just a side note because I think this is interesting, but they would paint pictures of gods on papyrus and then wrap them around the person's neck, and then also put symbols. I have henna on my hands, but they would put symbols on the hands, and then the physician would lick them off. And then also there was a herb. They're not quite sure like where the herb is from. It could be saffron flower. But they would make an herbal remedy for the person and then recount the story, which I think is really interesting. So I heard the story and I just felt like the essence of power and the theme of knowing someone's true essence is more powerful than like knowing their title, or your true essence is more powerful than your title. And so in regards to the Mercury Cazimi coming up, the Mercury Cazimi is a time of vulnerability, really. And so as we're in a Mercury retrograde right now in Cancer, so Mercury appears to be going backwards. It's going to be conjunct to the sun, and that's called a Cazimi. So planets, when they're really close to the sun, are typically considered combust, and it's not fortunate because the sun is overpowering the planet, so it can't really like speak and be as it would. Mercury is very close to the sun often, so Mercury Cazimi happens quite often when it will be in line, but at that moment of actual alignment, it's a special thing because it's like an illumination, or it's almost, I think of it as like the Sacred Heart with the fire around it. It's like something is being burned away, and what is left is the true essence. And I like to think of it almost as like the hidden name. So that's going to be on July 12th. So during the Mercury Cazimi, I'm wondering for myself and for others if there will be a moment where something that was once hidden may be revealed, and this is in the sign of Cancer, so maybe something related to family or emotions or mothers or children or the ocean, or just like really like and I think there's a vulnerability there, like maybe being able to recognize like what makes you really vulnerable, and what can be revealed. And like, so Cancer is represented by the crab, and so there is this hard exterior to the crab, but it's quite soft inside. And so it's like, I feel like we're finding the part that's soft inside. And then I think this is going to be very revealing before the reset, when we come back to the new moon and restart the moon cycle. And the moon being, the new moon particularly being a time to really be still. And as the sun and the moon conjoin together, it's really quite beautiful, especially because the moon is going to be in its domicile sign, the moon being happy in Cancer, being represented by Cancer. So it's a very exciting new moon, and I would love to know what comes up for people. Thanks. Bye.